Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lost Love Stories. I'm Pam Baker, your host, and I'm really super. I'm always excited for all my guests because they're all awesome. But today goes back decades, a decades old relationship, friendship, companionship, all the things. And my guest today is Margaret Cassalina, someone who is near and dear to my heart. We met, I don't know, it was like 20 years ago.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, because we met through the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation because we each have two kids with cystic fibrosis, similar ages. Yours are a little bit older than mine,
Yeah.
but yeah, welcome, Margaret. Thank you
Well,
so
thanks,
much for
Pam.
coming.
I'm
Yeah.
so happy to be here. I've been listening to all your podcasts, and I just love this opportunity to talk about, those we love.
Mhm.
Love from above, I call it.
Oh, I love that. I love all the things you say, all of the moving up and
Yeah.
and we'll get into all that.
Okay.
But, yeah, thank you so much. Margaret is, like I said, a dear friend. We've, just gotten really close as happens when you have a shared path as we do, and then we both have so many we'll get into that, like, all the crazy overlaps of stories is insane,
Yeah.
but, today, we're gonna talk about Jenna. As I said, Margaret has 2 kids with cystic fibrosis, Eric and Jenna, and, Jenna has moved up, and we'll get into her whole story, but let's just get to know her a little bit. I adore her. But yeah, just talk about share Jenna with us.
Well, that's pretty much all I talk about, really, especially in the cystic fibrosis community. Yes, I have two children with cystic fibrosis. My son is 34 currently. He's married, two kids, liver transplant. He's doing his thing. He's great. My daughter Jenna was also born with cystic fibrosis, 1993. She'd be 33. I don't use the word passed really or died. It's a personal choice. We all have lost people that we love, and the way that I say crazy keeps me sane is that I believe that she's always here. So I refer to her as moving up to heaven. She
Mhm.
just got there quicker, and we're heart to heart. So that transcends to me. So she moved up to heaven. People say, "Oh, where'd she move to?" I was like, "Well, heaven," and that's kind of where I go from her. So she
Mhm.
was 13 years old when she moved up, and it was due to cystic fibrosis.
Mhm.
She was in need of a double lung transplant, and that never happened.
Mhm.
She also was a kind of she was dramatic, but she was also very caring and giving, and she really wanted to donate her lungs to science, and she really wanted to help her brother. We thought it would be, after a successful transplant and not before, but she still ended up donating her lungs, and I think her cells are out there somewhere, and I'm hoping she's done something. And yeah, so she lived a lot in those 13 years. She came out the gate not as healthy as my son did. My son was pretty well healthy up until he was about teenager, and my daughter immediately had, failure to thrive in the hospital. We lived in the hospital. We made fun of everything in the hospital. If anybody saw that 5 Feet Apart movie, like, that's the era that we lived in the hospital where other cystic fibrosis people were in the room, and in fact, we shared a room, with, a little boy who had cystic fibrosis, and his mother and I, we'd giggle, laugh, and cry all at the same time, and it's really nice to see him. He's doing great, and we stay in touch a little bit, and it's one of those things, like, it's it it's just one of those things that bond you. There's something about a CF community that I'm not sure other, um, fatal diseases have that the cystic fibrosis community has. So Jenna created a lot of waves during her time on this planet, and then she continues to do them 20 years later. She will be in heaven 20 years this December, and I find that very hard to believe. But
Yeah.
I could talk about Jenna forever, so you're gonna have to,
I know.
wrangle me in.
I feel like I know her because, of course,
Yeah.
hearing all of her stories all these years, but, I think, what was I gonna say? Yeah, it's crazy to think about, how things have changed over the years, and, probably a lot of people don't even know what cystic fibrosis is who are listening,
Okay.
and we can go into that, but also, I think I always find it so crazy that two kids that live in the same house who have the same like genotype, everything there. Like for people who don't know, there are what 2,000 different types of cystic fibrosis. So people present differently, but even though they have the exact same kind in the exact same house, they present differently because Gavin and
Mhm.
Jake certainly did, and that's interesting with Eric and Jenna also, just like
Yeah.
so different in their
Absolutely different. I mean, ridiculously different. Eric, so cystic fibrosis is a hereditary disease. They've changed the language of it, but still there's no cure. So in my mind, that's fail.
yeah,
I don't know how else to say that. There's not 100% cure. So my kids were born. My son was born with it because he had a blockage in his intestines that cleaned out. That was fine. And then we'd go and get his lungs tested because it seemed like it's supposed to impact your lungs and your digestive, your pancreas. So you have to take enzymes to digest food, and it would impact your lungs, causing bacteria, which causes scarring, which causes damage. And he didn't seem to present with many of those. He just had more sinus issues, a lot
mm,
of sinus issues. My daughter out the gate presented with lung issues. And 90% of all those with cystic fibrosis are their lungs are impacted. Then you have 10% with the liver and a crossover with the GI issues, all depending on the 2,000 mutations of the cystic
yeah,
fibrosis. So, yeah, we had 2 kids in this family, one that thrived and one that really didn't, and I spent a lot of my time in the hospital with Jenna, and back in the early '90s, you didn't get an IV and go home. It seems like a lot of you can do home health care now.
yeah.
We didn't have that option back then. You had to go to the hospital for 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks, and live there. And my husband, Mark, and I would tag team Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I could come home to Eric because he's older, and Jenna, who was the younger one in the hospital. And uh, Jenna ended up just continually living in the hospital where the nurses fell in love with her, the doctors fell in love with her, everybody fell in love with her because she was there 2, 3 times a year. Um, so you're in the same hospital for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, people start to know you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was the advocate for my daughter, and there was literally a label on the chart that said "mother with the mouth," and
Oh.
and I take pride in that now, but, I was a young mom, and I was like, "Well, that's not fair. I'm just, like, advocating for my
Yeah.
kid," and but they were like, I wanted to know who you were, what you were doing, and when you're dealing with a terminal illness,
Mhm.
whatever diagnosis you're dealt with, you go in it scared as all.
Yep.
And I have notebooks. Literally, I can still pull out my binders, right?
Wow.
Everybody's got the binders of
Yeah.
when you start learning that language of disease. And I wanna know who you were, what you were, and to that point, I didn't know the difference between a medical student or
Mm,
an
mm,
attending or a chief or what a resident I'm like, I don't know, and I had someone sit me down and give me the step by step because you're so panicked when you're in this situation, you're scared for your loved one, and I'm, like, trying to learn all
mhm.
about cystic fibrosis, so I'm like, "Okay, who are you? What do you know about cystic fibrosis?" And I would uh, talk for 15, 20 minutes to a medical student all about these symptoms. And then he'd be like, okay, like he's just like listening. He can't
Yeah.
even take notes. He can't do anything. And then I would say it 3 or 4 times. I did to the resident, then I would do to the chief resident, then I would
Mhm.
do it to the attending. And then I was like, okay,
Yeah.
how much time do I wanna give this person as
Right.
opposed to this person? And I learned that very quickly, and my daughter also learned that quickly, and I think it's a really good lesson is to, your first time in, know who you're talking to and know you have the right to
Mhm.
say, "Yes, we can do this," or, "No, I think you're just you're poking at my kid, thinking you're learning on my kid."
You learning,
And
yeah.
I can appreciate that, but she's a little kid, and we can go
Yeah.
learn on an older person that can handle all these pokes, so
Yeah. Well, it's
that's
so true. Like the advocacy part in the hospital is so much, we know each other. It doesn't surprise me that you were known as the mom with the mouth, and I was known as, I was told, you better I was told, remember, have you ever seen that episode of Seinfeld where Elaine gets blacklisted from the medical community? You might wanna watch that episode. Like those Yeah. I'm like, "Okay."
Totally.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
off, so I'm
Uh-huh.
not changing. So, mhm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so,
Well,
yeah.
that doesn't surprise me, Pam.
I know. I know. No.
No, not at all, in the most complimentary way,
Mhm,
because it's very and mistakes too happen, they're humans,
mhm.
and there was a horrible mistake that humanly happened while my daughter was going through her transplant that didn't happen, and that's what kind of accelerated her
Mm.
demise.
Yeah.
Somebody, she was on 14 different IVs, all on like 3 different poles, medicines infusing into her at a very fast rate, and the ICU nurse at that time put the wrong rate into her, so she got an extremely large dose at the wrong rate, and it caused cardiac arrest.
Oh, wow.
So they had to clear the room, and it really sent Jenna. She didn't have the energy to handle that, and
Mhm.
we we got called into by the chief, and he's like, "Listen, do you want to, write her up on charges, the nurse?" And at this point, I was like, you don't know where you are when your kid
Yeah,
is, you're like, I'm not dealing with this now, and I'm sure she knows what she did. I just don't wanna see her again while I'm
yeah,
here, but she now has to live with what she did the rest of her life, and I feel like that's a bad enough, um, penance for her.
yeah,
So I don't know where she is, I never saw her again, but she was the one that, and I don't write about it, I don't talk about it, that was just, Mark and I, that was our choice to say, I wouldn't feel right taking someone's livelihood, and I feel like, she has to live with that the rest of her life.
yeah, that speaks volumes about you, but the both of you, actually, because, you know, losing your child in their physical state in front of you, I'm sure there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of all kinds of things, probably some guilt too, like, "Why didn't I see this? Why didn't I stop it? I didn't know." All of those things that would be wrapped up and be very satisfying in some
Yes,
ways to be like,
absolutely.
"I'm gonna."
It's not like my brain didn't think it, but
Mhm,
my heart was like, no, and in that same hospital, so that was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, um, and which is funny because now there's the ER show called The Pit or whatever, and I was
right.
like, I'm out, I can't do
I
The
love
Pit."
it.
But one of the wonderful things though that the staff is absolutely amazing and very caretaking, and the time that we kind of knew Jenna was not going to come out of this, her lungs had collapsed, her CO2 was through the max, like her brain activity started to seriously decline. She would never come out to be my Jenna again.
Mm,
um I kind of remember sitting on the floor, in tears, and Mark was just he just stayed with her. He's the one who will go to the nth degree for the hope. He will, if
mm,
there is a sliver of a hope. So I sat on the floor crying, going, I'm a horrible mother. I'm a horrible mother because I know we're gonna talk about this. I do feel like, love is above. I think my daughter's always with me. I don't talk to her in the past as she's in the past. She's present to me.
mm.
I talk Jenna is. There's not a Jenna was. Like, her human body was, but there's a Jenna is in my life. Like,
Yeah.
there's a definite there. And so when the too many drugs came, and Jenna had crashed, and she was in cardiac arrest, and they knew the brain activity now was depleted, and they cleared the room, and I'm on the floor, and I just fell to the floor, and I'm rocking and I'm crying and I'm praying. I'm Catholic, so I
Mm,
was saying all the prayers I could think of as fast as I could say, as loud as I could say, as just like angrily. Every and I swear, and it's probably because I was depleted of sleep and emotional, but I swear to this day, I heard my daughter say, Mommy, you don't pray like that. You don't, it's not, you don't barter with God. You talk to him. Stop praying like that.
wow.
And I was like, okay. And then she said, Mommy, in my head, she was not talking. This is all in my
Mhm,
head. She said, Mommy, I want to go home. And I knew it wasn't with me.
mhm.
And so I sat on the floor and I said, okay, I'll let you go. But Mark was like, oh no. you know, he didn't
Yeah.
know what was in my head at the time, right? So he's in his, reality, and he's next to his daughter, and the activity of her brain was very limited. And I sat on the floor against the wall, and I'm saying I'm a horrible mother because I let her go. Like, what mother lets her go? What mother lets her go? And the nurse sat down on the floor next to me, and I told her the whole thing. And she held my hand, and then she hugged me, and then she's crying and I'm crying. And she goes, "You have tremendous love for your daughter. Um, Jenna was never going to come back, my Jenna. She was basically brain dead. Her
Wow.
heart, she didn't have the ability to go through a lung transplant. It was like 0.1% chance that she would live. My husband is still
Holding on.
holding on to that.
Mm.
He will." And I was like, I let her g and that's when I let her go. And at that moment, I felt like she's always been in me from that moment on, and, like, in me, and I feel like she sees the world through me. And so that's my obligation, I think, to her, is to make sure what she sees in life is as amazing as what she brought to me, you know? So,
I love that because, it's like I can totally feel that and see that, like, it's almost like she fused herself into you to give you the strength to do that,
mm,
and to have her actual presence be felt, like, so solidly within you
yeah,
to just to make it easier for you to let go to the physical. Like, that's how it feels like when you're describe I've heard you describe that before, but
yeah.
I just that's what it just feels like. It's almost like a transition of her.
I
Tran
believe that's what happened, and then, the grief in the morning and all that was a different story. But there was something special about Jenna, and I know everybody, and I know you've talked about it on your podcast, is that people idolize those that have passed. But I mean, my daughter was dramatic. She was temperamental. I mean, I could go on about her annoying parts, but
Mhm.
there was something very special, so special that in that hospital, the doctor in there, I don't even know who this doctor was, but I have this letter that came probably 15 years after she passed, and he had retired. And he said, in all my years working in the hospital, I'd never met a family like yours before. And I never met a little girl that fought on. Like, he carries her with him. And he wrote this 15 years later. So it's not a mom saying this. This is
Yeah.
odd strangers saying there was something odd about your daughter, very in a very positive way, like something
Yeah,
very,
no,
very special about her. She has a
but
way of transcending into your hearts in a way that people feel her.
mhm.
And I'm her mom, so of course I do. But when
Yeah.
I hear that often, and especially, when people get to know her through, if I talk about her or if I write about her, they're like, "I feel like I know her," and then somehow weird things happen to them, and I mean, for our connection,
Yeah.
so John and Jenna had the same birthday, March 13th,
Wow.
and they were like, and he used to text birthday buddies, or,
Mhm.
um, and I thought that was really sweet. And we have a lot of weird connections that uh, I first met John first because your boys were little and you were home, and he would come to, and it wasn't VLC then, it was whatever it was before VLC.
Yeah.
I don't know,
I know.
but
Well, yeah.
yeah, he went to one of the conferences
Mhm.
early on, and I think it was before it was a VLC, volunteer leadership or something. I don't
Yeah.
know,
What
doesn't
was
matter. Anyway, we just took like an immediate, like, there's people you gravitate towards. So it
Mhm.
was the way he dealt with the conversations or whatever. He goes, "Oh, don't go in that breakout session, it'll kill you," or he'll be like, "Oh, you need to see this," so we just had a nice conversation, and that's great. Okay, and then I meet you, have a great relationship over all these years, find out that they have the same birthday. And when John passed, and for other people I use it, I because I
Mhm.
don't want to
Yeah.
assume everybody uses moved up. But I won't say the D word. I'm done
Yeah.
with it. I said it once in this podcast. I won't say it again.
Mhm.
Um, he moved up on Mark's birthday, which is my
Mhm.
husband. So he moved up on Mark's birthday, and then you had the celebration of life for John on the day Jenna moved up. And I was like, okay.
I know, it's so
I'm
crazy.
like, okay, there's a little bit of like, you were in no position to be planning any of this, but I'm like, somehow the Castellinas and the Bakers just need to be a little bit mindful of some sort of higher power of a
Yeah.
connection.
Totally.
And I said before, I feel like, John and Jenna will be doing something at this point during this podcast. So if this goes bad, technical issues, that's the reason. It's them, no doubt.
Totally. I know it's so crazy. And like just all of the constant, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the cross.
Coincidence?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
coincidence.
tapestry, whatever. Yeah.
It's so crazy. Yeah, it's just like a super special connection. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I do feel like I know Jenna through your stories, and because I think she is just like she's such a big personality. I just love it. But if you want to just share, we'll get into all of the signs and everything. But like a couple of your favorite memories. I feel like I have my favorite memories of her, and I never even met her.
Well, tell me, what's one of your favorites? I can elaborate on
Well,
it.
like, your pictures from, like, Disney and her big smile and all the
Um,
like, she just was, like, exuberant with all in, like, all of her
she
pictures,
was.
she's just like, "Ah!" Like, big, you
Yeah.
know? I feel like Eric was just, like,
Yes.
like, the quiet bystander, and she's like,
Yes.
"Ah!" And that's maybe made up in my mind, I don't know, that's just the vibe I get from her.
Well, they always say the first one is, mindful and it's a good child, and then the second one comes out and it's like, ah, and
Yeah.
that's Jenna. Jenna's the second one that, yeah, she was always that way. She instigated, she caused troubles, and Eric was so patient and so kind with her, and she would just. She did the best she could to annoy her brother to the nth
Mhm,
degree, and he was the most patient and kind, and he still is a very patient, he's very kind, and
mhm.
he's much more reserved to
Yeah.
this day. And then there's Jenna, who I don't think you could contain that girl. But one of my favorite memories, and I've posted this, and it's one of my favorite ones because we're so caught up in, I think everybody can say that they're done with selfies and all the duck lips and all that other stuff. But I felt like Jenna and I had the original selfie, the OG of selfies, because she had just gotten a flip phone in 2005. She's 12 years old,
Mhm.
and, you had to press it 1,500 times to say hi or something,
Yeah,
to get to that right letter. But you could take a picture and have it in your phone, and it was like 50 cents a picture or something like
yeah.
that.
Oh god, I remember that.
And, she's like, "Let's get a picture so when I call you or text you, your picture comes up." So, no makeup, goofy giggles, no pretense, no posing, just mom and a daughter bonding on a bed, being silly and goofy and taking that picture and being so proud of um, the bond. And
Mhm,
it's still on her phone. I still have that phone. I still see that picture. I know I've shared that story because it's like, I think people get lost in making things perfect,
mhm,
and I think the best memories are the screwy ones, the giggle ones, the non-pose ones, the non-predicted
mhm.
ones. Um, and that one, it reminds you, to make the memories rather than worry about how they're made. Like
Yeah,
just embrace the experience of the memories instead of having it contrived, and it's
perfect or
so.
perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
because life isn't that. And if you have memories that are perfect, you know that the struggle went into that perfect picture. You're
Yeah.
posing, it's hot, I don't want to wear it, looking the wrong way.
Look,
Those are the worst, and
they're the
I
worst.
really hope we as a society swing back to a
Mhm.
place where reality. Of course, I showered, put makeup on because my reality is
Yeah.
not going to show up on camera. That's for sure. That's just not happening. But if you were over at my house about 20 minutes ago, you would have seen me, and I would have been happy to see you that way. But
It's so
you know,
perfect. I get
yeah,
it. I know. It's so funny because you see, I always call Facebook fake book because it's like
yeah.
what everybody wants to present as their wish list. But I look at our family photos, like they look great, but you're right. Like going into it, my girlfriend is a photographer. She's amazing and has done most of our family photos. And I used to tell her, I'm like, the best thing you can do is like serve the mom mimosas. Like let's half an hour, 45 minutes ahead of time so we can calm the F down
Yeah.
because this shit sucks. Like, all of it sucks. I just need to chill out because,
Hmm.
and then you get your picture and you're like, "Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God we got one out of the 5,000
I
you
know,
just."
but then you look at the picture, you're like, "Ugh," it wasn't even. it
No.
wasn't fun
No,
during that.
at all. No, no.
And I do have one other favorite story, which is I love a lesson that can be learned. Like, and you
Mm,
don't even know you're learning these lessons until later. A lot of times, you reflect back, you're like, man, that was a great lesson. But then there's certain lessons that I learned at that moment in time that I share, which is we were going to Lourdes, France, because the Knights of Columbus had enabled us to go for a miracle. Apparently, there were miracles in Lourdes, France, at the Saint Bernadette grotto, and there were actually 64 documented miracles that happened, and we were praying we would be the
mhm.
65th, which in the cystic fibrosis community means a lot because 65 is what little kids couldn't say cystic fibrosis. So they said 65 roses. Hence, if you see my roses, you
Huh?
know, and the 65. So I was like, oh my God, we're going to be this. I just
Yeah.
know it. I just know it. And one sidebar thing is like, I knew it was going to happen because we went in and we got dunked in the water, and they knew it was a miracle if you got out of the water and you were dry. So we had all done that. My in-laws were there. Eric was there. They all went through, they all came out. They were all wet. People in front of
Mhm.
us. Jen and I went through, we stood up, we were dry.
Wait,
Even our hair was dry. It was
what?
like, and I had longer hair at the time.
Yeah.
Even the nuns there were like, and I
Oh,
was like, what? And they're like,
oh my
you're
god.
dry. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't
Okay.
know the significance. Anyway, she needed oxygen. She had a wheelchair. And for some odd reason, the girl went through Lourdes, France, healthy, ran it, walked it,
Right.
prayed it. There's so many weird things I could tell you about that. And Eric, unfortunately, wasn't feeling well. And he used the wheelchair at that point.
Oh,
But
wow.
backing up, we were going to Lourdes, France. So we went to Target to go shopping. Target was brand new. It was like the cool place to go. So we're shopping, and she wouldn't take her oxygen concentrator or the tank in with us. She didn't want to walk around the store. So she's walking around the store. She's coughing. She's
Mhm,
turning blue.
mhm.
Everybody's staring at her because we have cups, because at that point, a lot of mucus would come out of your lungs if you
Mhm.
coughed a lot. So I had the Dixie cups. People are like, she should be, at the
Bring the
hospital. But
sick kid out. Yeah.
oh yeah, everybody gave, every opinion possible.
Yeah.
And Jenna would just smile and be like, she basically said F you, but in a smile. So she tried on all the clothes. We get back to the car. Now her fingers are blue, her face. I'm like, and I'm mad, I'm scared, and I'm
Yeah.
angry. And I rip open the oxygen tank. I put it like in her mouth because it's faster. I closed her nose, and so she could breathe it in, and you could start seeing oxygen come back to her face. And people would probably say, well, why don't you just force her to have the oxygen tank in there? And if you knew Jenna, there was no freaking way. Then she would
Yeah.
go, like, either I'm going in without it or I'm not going. Like,
Right.
that's how stubborn she was.
Mhm.
So believe me, to any naysayer out there, it's like, I tried. I tried. So I'm crying. I'm crying because I can't take what I'm seeing with my own eyes, and I'm
Yeah.
crying, and I'm like, Jenna, how are you doing this? How I could have bought all this for you. And she said, no way. I mean, she was so mad, no way. And then she's like, I was like, How do you do it?" But she knew what I was saying. Like, how are you doing this, knowing your future is very uncertain? Like,
Mhm.
the only way we knew she was going to be is through a transplant. And so her future was uncertain. And here she is, and she's like, Mom, and this is where I was like, she goes, Mom, I'm not going to ruin today because I'm worried about tomorrow. If I'm worried or scared tomorrow, I'll be worried and scared tomorrow, but I will not take the joy out of today. And I looked at her and I cried even more. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
how are you teaching
I
me?
know, like, the wisdom of was she 13 yet at that point?
Yeah, she was 13 at that point.
Oh
Uh,
my god.
Yes, yes. That
Uh-huh.
was in September. Yeah. But can you just
No,
imagine?
no, you can't imagine. That's insane. That's
Right,
insanely wise for a
right.
13-year.
How do you and the mother who's supposed to have her shit together
Yeah.
is like, not. And she just was like, and I use that all the time.
Mhm,
I use it all the time. I'm just like, yes, I'm not going to ruin today's joy.
mhm.
And kids just are present where their feet are, and parents and adults tend to worry about what was, what will happen. And
Both
if
ends
they
of it.
exactly. If you could just be present where your feet are, what Jenna taught me, and I fail at it often. I live in my head and I have a very hard time, staying there. But when I do, I thank her for that wisdom to say that. And then she always kept a journal. And one thing she highlighted in that journal or book she was reading was pain is not a valid reason for stopping.
Mm,
And, you could take that in many different ways, but that also helped me after she passed because the pain of emotion shouldn't stop me from living. It
yeah.
shouldn't stop me. I think she was taking it as her own personal pain isn't going to stop her from
Mhm.
doing. But I'm like, how is she like just dropping nuggets on me, and I'm just picking them up.
Those are big, and
Yeah.
I see that all the time in the widow space, of course, is, you're brokenhearted and just, uh, a lot of women do stop living,
Yeah.
and that's what we talk about all the time is, like, he stopped living. That doesn't
Right.
mean you have to stop living, and it doesn't he wouldn't want you to. Like, there's
Right.
still so much life left to live. So, living it doesn't mean you don't miss him or love him or
Right.
wish that things were different, but it's almost like a and nobody thinks of it this way, but, like, you're honoring them more
By
by, like,
living.
living, and I 1000% think Jenna would say the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Go live your life, like, do
Yeah.
what I couldn't do, like, go
Yeah.
live it because you have the opportunity to live.
Exactly, and all the crying in the world and the rocking in the corner and all that I could ever do for the rest of my life would not bring her back.
Right.
So, I'm going to, not live my life because I think it's honoring her. I
Mm,
think by not living my life I would be dishonoring
agreed.
her,
Yeah.
and it's hard because you're so sad, you're mourning, you miss them. I mean, I remember the first time I laughed, I felt horrible. I was like, "Oh my god, you laughed. How could you enjoy life without Jenna?"
Mhm.
And then I was like, "Wait, if I believe that she's in me, then she sees the joy and I want to show her more.
Yeah.
I want to show her more. Look at this, Jenna. Look at that. Look, we're on a podcast, Jen."
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. Yeah, there is such wisdom in that, and again, they wouldn't want it any other way because it's like life is a gift. Living
Yeah,
is a gift.
it
Don't
is.
waste it. Don't
Take
waste
all the experiences, good, bad, ugly, face reality, live with your feet are, and
it.
enjoy today. Because if tomorrow sucks, guess what? It's gonna suck anyway,
You don't need to worry about it today. That's so true. Well, I we've talked about this so much, and I just love it because, like Jenna, John shows up all the time, and
Uh,
I would love for you to share, like, in so many ways. And this is one of the things I it was really important for me to have you do this episode because it's number 13, which is
13.
our favorite
It's
number.
our favorite number.
Uh-huh. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I share some of the ways she shows up. There's so many ways, but like your
yeah.
favorite ways.
Well, the 13, anytime I see 313,
Mhm.
that is like a Jenna moment. There's everybody talks about Jenna pennies. If
Yeah.
you have met me for any length of time, someone will say something, "Oh, tell people about your Jenna pennies."
Mhm.
Now, Jenna pennies did not originate through me at all. It was I think everybody has some sort of emotional, I don't know, like security blanket when someone dies. They hang on to something physical in their hands, whatever that is. And I had a picture of my two kids that was taped to her ICU while she was passing, because I wanted everybody to know what she looked like without all these tubes
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything on her. And so when we left the hospital, they gave me that picture and I held on to that picture. So during her services, the wind it was December and it was very cold, and the wind picked it up and it like flew away. And I caught it right before it went into the big hole in the ground. Right. And so I was like, oh my God, I was like, no, 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 no. I mean, I was like overly concerned about this picture. Like, this was very important to me. It should have gone on the ground, but it didn't. So it came with me. We go to the um we're it was St. Mary's Hall where everybody gathered to pay their respects, eat something. And so I sat down just as soon as I walked in. I had some cards that people had given me. I had this beautiful angel. And then underneath the angel, I placed Jenna and Eric's picture underneath that angel as people were hugging me and consoling me. And, you know, I was consoling them. And,
Mhm.
and so by the end of the day, everybody started clearing out, and I went to go get that picture because I was like, "Oh, I need that picture." And the angel was there, and the cards were there, but the picture was gone.
Wow.
And I lost my mind. I freaked out. I screamed. I yelled. They're like, "Okay, what on earth could be wrong with this girl at this
Yeah.
point?" Um, so I said, I lost the picture. Now everybody's going through the garbage. They're looking for everything, can't
Uh-huh.
find it anywhere. And then someone said, "You've got to see this." And my friend was like, "No, Margaret's kind of losing her mind right now." And they're like, "No, no, no, you really need to see this." So we walked over, and there was a heart drawn on the floor, like someone had painted it, and it was soda or wine or something like that. It was a legit heart. And center of that heart was a penny. And I was like, "Oh, okay." But I took it as, because Jenna and I always used to say that we are heart to heart, heart to heart. That's what we are, heart to heart. And so I took the heart, and someone took the idea that, so they took the penny, they picked it up, they kept it. And then after that, people kept saying, "Oh, I found a penny. I found a penny." I was folding towels and I found a penny. I found a Jenna penny. I was wiping this counter and I found a Jenna penny. I'm like, "What's a Jenna penny?" And they're like, "Well, I was thinking of your daughter, and somehow this penny just shows up."
My
And
God.
I'm like, "Okay, like whatever." But this kept happening. And then we also had an RV at the time, and for some reason, Mark's cell phone seemed to, like, it was buzzing, and he looked at it, but it was not, nobody had called, but it was like a picture of Jenna. So he's like, "Hey, Jay, we're back on the road again." Shut the cell phone, put on his hip, and then he no, he didn't do that at that point. All of a sudden, there was something that fell out from above, landed on the console, and it was a 1967 penny, which is Mark's birthday.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, where did that penny? It
Out of the sky.
fell
Yeah.
right down, and I'm like, "Okay, that's odd." So
Wow.
now Mark and I started finding pennies like in the weirdest places at the weirdest time, but at the exact time I was thinking about Jenna, or the exact time I needed something. So all of
Mm.
a sudden, now I'm like, "Oh, there might be something to these Jenna pennies."
Yeah.
And so it got to overwhelming of these pennies as a sign from above. Some people like the cardinal, some people like, you know, um, feathers or whatever. For me, it's pennies are just like, but it's not just like when I tell this story or someone reads about the full length of the Jenna story with the pennies, they're like, "I found a penny. I just know it's Jenna. I know everything's going to be okay now because Jenna's here." And I'm like, "Okay, if you believe it, who am I to say no?"
I
And it
know.
got so out of hand, we ended up, we redid this house. So this is the same house we had since 1991. After a while, it needed renovation. So we redid the foyer, and I wanted a penny floor.
Mhm.
And I thought I would just take, because I saved all those
Yeah,
pennies
of
and I
course.
wanted to put them on the penny floor. And then some people said, "Oh, can I put my penny there?" Sure. And then people started like texting and calling, "Well, can I put my penny on your floor?"
Wow.
Sure. I
Mhm.
mean, it was like, why? But okay, and then they started calling it the Jenny Penny floor. And then it's our anniversary in January. And I was like, "All right, for our anniversary," I put on Facebook, anybody in town, they want to come over as an open house and help with the Jenna Penny floor. Oh my God, hundreds of people came by, and all these pennies started showing up. And then I posted about that, and they're like, "Well, can I send you my pennies?" I'm
Mhm.
like, "Sure." It got so out of hand, no lie, stack of Bibles. I have 33,000 pennies on my foyer floor,
Oh,
all donated by people, all placed by me, Mark, or the person that brought the pennies, my son, my daughter-in-law, they all place the pennies down. It's the most, and I always say it's the floor that love built. So when you stand, everybody, they don't even know the story. When they stand on that floor, they're like, "Ooh," everybody goes, "Ooh," I got the chills. I was like, "That's my girl."
my girl. I love that. I remember when you guys were doing that. It's such a
It's
cool
such,
thing.
yeah, so pennies, anytime I see pennies, and
Mhm.
13. 13 is 313, 13 is forever a Jenna,
Mhm.
it's just it's and it's strange for anybody, really. I'm sure you get the
Totally.
313s too. Yeah.
Yeah, totally, totally, but
Yeah.
I've done that too when I've been out and see a penny, and again, I've never met Jenna, but I've literally been like, "Hey, Jenna." Like, I do the same thing, it's so
Yeah.
funny. It's just become so a part of who she is.
Yeah.
Um, I love that, I love the story, I love that you did that, that's so freaking cool
Yeah.
just to have that
You could
that
see it on my Instagram, so if anybody wants to,
Yeah.
just go look on my Instagram because it's really cool to look at, just
It
yeah,
is
yeah.
very cool. I'll put your stuff in the show notes too, your Instagram.
Oh,
Um,
well, yeah, just
that is so cool. I didn't know there were that many though. Yeah, I'm sure you wrote oh,
33,000 pennies.
shit, that's a lot. That's insane.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
Well, Mark did the
Well,
math on it. I was like, I'm not counting this. After I get past 10, I forgot where I went, so
exactly. Oh my
he did
god.
the math. Yeah,
I love it. Well, there are so many ways. Obviously, she's present in signs, but there are really cool ways that you and your family have honored Jenna.
right.
And so many other people. I mean, we with our Shamrock and stuff had a
Yes,
Jenna Award always, and the peppermint patties and all of
yes.
the things. But yeah, share with us the Jenna Award that is done on the national level every year.
Yeah, so, when Jenna moved up, it was very hard to get re-engaged in the CF community, and yet it was the most perfect place to get re-engaged because, as you know, and with your widows, no one's gonna get you like someone that experienced what you went through, you
No.
know? So you always kinda lean in, but you're also a little sad because it always stirs a little bit of the emotion. So in the CF Foundation, uh, they really asked us to come back, for the first year, so we did, and they brought us aside. I was like, "Oh, this is never good,"
Yeah.
when they do yeah, "Oh, come" anyway, so they had this beautiful picture of Jenna with a plaque and then hand painted roses all around her, very lifelike. And it was very eerie because when I held it up and you just hold it, it's very large, but Jenna's face and my face are like I could see my eyes in reflection of hers from the frame.
Mhm.
And it's eerie and so soothing at the same time. And they said, well, we want to honor Jenna. Um, but we want to honor her because she was spunky, she had courage, and we would like to honor volunteers that don't have any genetic, I call it DNA connection, who emulate that same energy that she had, that their courage, they breathe. And to know Jenna, she wanted to talk about cystic fibrosis. She wanted to raise money. Eric, not so much. He was like, just don't mention my name. But Eric was like, give me the mic. Jenna was just like, give me the mic. I want to talk about my cystic fibrosis. I want to educate everybody. So the foundation was they knew this and they wanted to honor another person while still honoring Jenna. And I thought it was beautiful. So this is 18 years ago. It was the first year after it had to been, yeah. So it'll be 19 years, I guess, this year at the foundation that they honored her. And it's called the Jena Cassalina Award, and it's given to somebody in our community that goes above and beyond to help the foundation move its mission to cure and control cystic fibrosis in a big way, a brave way. And it's something that Mark and I get to go on stage and we get to talk about Jenna for a little bit. And then we get to honor a volunteer who's just amazing. And it's been the most rewarding way. And it's become a pretty big deal in the
It
foundation.
is a big
We were
deal.
just, we figured every year they're going to take it away. Like, oh, and, I don't think at this point, it's 18 years, I can't see them
I know.
taking that away now, but
I don't think so either. I think everybody'd be like, "What the hell? Where is it?" 'Cause
yeah,
it
where's the Jenna Award?
yeah,
Yeah,
because it's such a part of, the CF story, but it's also I love that it honors a non-DNA related
yes,
person because that those people, as we know as CF moms, those people that show up who don't have the
yeah,
DNA, they all become family. So that's why
yes,
I know that's why you say non-DNA. They are family members, but
yes,
uh, it's so important for us to have people that don't have to be in this fight
no.
still showing up to fight.
I still don't know why they do, but they do, and not to throw it back to you, but your shamrocking is their shamrocking is the most unbelievable example of that.
Mhm.
Your whole committee, everybody that gets involved, it's like you could feel the love that everybody has to support your family and the cure of cystic fibrosis. And it's like, why do these people do that? And I know I've shared that with you. It's because you're the person. You and your family are the reason why Shamrockin' is probably the most successful event the foundation has ever had for as many years as it has had. And I was honored to speak there. And in fact, after John had moved up, and I actually gonna cry about this. We went there and I looked up on the stage, and it's very cool the way everything is decorated, shamrocking and everything. And there's, the VIP and everybody's like, it's a very, very cool event. Um, but it was very weird. You had a picture of Jenna, and then you had a picture of John, like a life size
We have
cutout of John.
yeah.
But it was like 3 and 13. I took a picture. I still have it. I took a picture and there was John and then there was Jenna and then there was 313. And I was like, but it was just like section 3 and section 13.
Yeah.
It wasn't because it was their birthday. It was the most random picture. And I was like, they're here. They
They're
are so here,
yeah.
you know.
Which, of course, I didn't notice it that night, but I do remember you showing me that picture, and
Yeah.
it was not planned,
No,
and
no, not at all. It was
we were
sections. But it was like, it was amazing. It
yeah,
was so amazing.
so amazing.
Yeah. Anyway.
Actually, that cardboard cutout is in my, attic, and I went up yesterday to get my luggage down, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, honey." You went up here. So funny. It's life size, so I'm
Did
like,
you go over and dust them off a little bit? Like, "Sorry, love. I
"Sorry."
gotta get up here more often."
Come visit you. Oh my god. The
Yeah.
things we do. Oh my god.
Right, exactly. We say goodnight to Jenna. Mark and I both walk by because the picture is on our way to our bedroom, and we
Mhm.
both go, "Good night, Jane." And we just like we say goodnight to her.
Yeah,
People always say like it's kind of hard after you lose a child to anything.
yeah.
It's like, well, how many children do you have? And it's at
Mm.
first it was a difficult thing to answer, and I find it very easy now. I said I have 2 children. I said one you can see, one
Mhm.
you can't.
Yeah.
One who is with me all the time, and one I have to wait for a freaking text. So it's like, it's easy at this point. And this way, when I talk about her in the present tense, they're not, I break the ice because people sometimes, especially in the beginning, they don't know,
Yeah.
did they mention their name? I don't want to make you cry. I'm like, well, you're not going to make me cry. I'm going to make myself cry. You're like, you think I don't cry? You think like I love how people think like they brought up your loved one, and like and then you start crying. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry I did that." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have the power of making me cry."
That's right.
Yeah, the sun with the rays on the perfect day with the song that can make me cry. That has the power. But you talking just makes me feel good,
Yeah.
and I feel like I've mastered crying and laughing at the same time. I
Mhm.
think I can cry and laugh at the same time, and I think I have a little bit dark sense of humor that most people are like, "Oh, like
Right.
that's kinda
No,
raw," and I'm like, "Yeah, oh well."
it is what it is, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's so true. We talk
yeah,
about that all the time on this podcast, but also us like in the widow space, how people just stop talking about our people
mm,
because they don't wanna make us cry or make it uncomfortable or make it weird or even deal with their own emotions because
right.
they're dealing with
Right.
it too.
I think that's it. I think, anybody that's watching this has lost somebody.
Mhm.
And if they haven't, I'm sure they lost an animal that they love. Like, that your heart hurts from your own memories,
Mhm.
but it's also like you get the opportunity to carry those memories forward. You know, and again, like she said, where your feet, Jenna, where your feet are, be present presently. They're not physically here, but presently the memories of them are so wonderful that I don't even think I feel like she's around me all the time.
Mhm.
Like, and I just wish that for people that
Mhm.
are can't get past that.
Yeah, I think that, it's so interesting because I say that with people too. It's like, I believe I mean, everybody's made of energy and their energy is here, right?
Yeah.
Their physical being is not, but their energy is here. And if you
Mhm.
are open to it, and then people will be like, that's woo woo, that's
Yeah.
whatever, you're, witchy, whatever. But it's so very clear that if
Yeah.
you are open to it, they they show you.
Right.
They show you that you're here. I mean, I know I've showed you this. I think I just showed it to you when we were in New York, a few months ago, but, the shell that
Yeah.
John sent me, and I was
Yeah.
literally sitting on the beach, what was it, just a few months, so my
Yeah.
friends kinda took me away, after he died, and was
Yeah.
sitting on the beach just having a moment by myself, just talking to him, and
Yeah.
this shell just rolled right up right next to me, and I said, "Thanks, honey," and I looked at it, and I was like, "That's my little gift," but when I
Yep.
picked it up, it had the perfect heart carved out from inside the shell, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
All right.
that's
Now you could call that woo woo, but I mean, how coinc? I don't believe in coincidences. If to know
Mhm.
me is I do two hashtags: hashtag no coincidence, hashtag love from above. Oh, third hashtag love never ends. That's
Yes.
like I just can't help myself, and it's like I crazy keeps you sane
Mhm.
because is being sane, crying, not living your life, that is that reality? Is that sane? Is that so I question, would you rather talk to John in a shell thinking that's him? Or would you rather, not shower, not eat,
Right,
not socialize, and that is okay in
right.
society? So I say let's make woo-woo like normal. And who wants to be normal? Like really, do you want to be normal? It's kind of boring.
Yeah, and it's a lot cooler to have a freaking shell with a heart in it or,
Yes.
whatever, to see a penny fall down from wherever it fell
Yeah.
from. There's just I mean, that's freaking cool. It's just cool.
It's just them, and I believe in the energy too. See,
Mhm,
it's how do you destroy energy, and
mhm,
I mean, everybody, anybody listening, you close your eyes, and someone alive, you can feel them coming in. They're just trying to
mhm.
sneak up on you. You're like, oh, you're in the room. You can feel them, but you didn't see
Yeah,
them.
right.
Like, why? What makes John and Jenna different than the person you shut your eyes, but you felt their energy? I knew somebody was behind me. It's like,
Mhm,
uh-huh,
mhm.
you have energy too.
Yep,
It's just when you open your eyes, the person's physically there.
right,
And when we open our eyes, they're just not. But
right.
we know they're still there. Like they're
That's right.
still there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally 100%. It's just
Yeah.
cooler if people are open to it.
We're crazy.
Your eyes.
It's okay. We're
That's
crazy.
right. I know, I'll take it. I'll take it because, I kept that shell. I
I have those pennies.
That's so right. Well, so you do a ton of amazing, amazing, amazing public speaking because you are constantly in which, you know, we can talk about that if you want, but obviously you have Eric. It
Hmm.
would be easy for you to, though, be like, screw this. I'm not dealing with the CF world anymore. I can't be a part of this. It's too hard.
Yeah.
And there are some very, very, very special parents who have lost children who stay in the
Yeah.
fight. And that's a really just special beyond imagination. But, you have crafted you have honed that public speaking skill pretty amazingly, and, is that something that you were always comfortable with, or did you kind of be like, "This is what I
If
gotta."
anybody knows me from high school, if they ever watch this, they'll be like, she's been invaded by the body snatchers because to know me is to know I was an extremely like introverted person. I
Mhm.
was very introverted, quiet, shy, embarrassed. I didn't speak out. Being a CF mom slowly opened that Pandora's box that I can't shove that mouth back in. And it start I mean, I honestly I was afraid to call HP one time for like customer service because my computer didn't work in early 90s when it was like beep 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 whatever, and I was like, what if they think I'm an idiot? What if they think and I was petrified. And then the first time Jenna needed surgery, she was like, I don't know, 2 or 3, and they didn't, they denied anesthesiology, an anesthesiologist to her surgery. So the surgery was approved. She was getting a feeding tube. That's what it was. So she was 4. The surgery was approved and the medications were approved, but the anesthesiologist was not approved. And we were broke, 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 broke. And I was like, no, sorry, ma'am, we can't do anything. And something inside me, the quietest voice shaking. I'm like, can I speak to your manager
Oh my
or
god.
your supervisor?
Mhm.
She was like, yes, and she transferred. And that I was crying talking to the supervisor because I was so afraid what she would think of me. And oh my God. And I was so nervous. But my kid needed to be
Yeah.
covered. Anyway, she goes, oh, it's just it's the coding was wrong. So no problem. And I'm like, and I calmed down. I'm like,
You're
"What
like,
is
"What?"
that?" I know, I sat a little taller. I was like, "Guess what I did today?" I was so proud of myself.
Yeah.
And then so anytime it came against something that I thought should be corrected, especially when it came to hospitals or whatever, my voice came out. And pretty soon my voice just didn't come back in. And then when Jenna moved up, I wrote a book. I actually didn't write a book. I I always have written journals. I write, I just love to write. So I always had a journal. I wrote a journal. Mark emailed my diary to Frank DeFord back in the day because he's a CF dad who wrote the book Life of Alex, and he was friends of ours because just being involved with cystic fibrosis. So he didn't tell me. Mark didn't tell me this. So I
Wow.
get an email back from Frank, which I still have and I framed, and then I have a letter that he wrote and I framed.
Mhm.
Um, but he wrote back and he was like, Margaret, I love your book. I cried like a baby. You have to publish this, blah, blah, blah. But on page 56, and he started editing my diary.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm reading this and I'm like mortified. I'm like, what? And then I scream. Then I realized I put 2 and 2 together and I screamed, Mark. I was like, what the hell? So I wrote, what convinced me was that if I wrote this and I did publish this, that one person could meet my daughter Jenna in the pages. And
Mhm.
so when I hit submit to see if I could publish this book, that was the only motivation, was that someone would meet Jenna and she would live forever in the pages of a book. So I
Mhm.
was like, fine. So that book came out and then foundations started asking me, could you talk about your story? And I'm like, no, and I'm like, okay. So I'd write everything, and I'd be that,
Oh, God.
you know,
Yeah.
shaking the paper louder than my voice, but
Mhm.
I would do it, and then, for some unknown reason, people kept asking me. So I
Mhm.
have been speaking not because I wanted to, and then and then it got out of hand. Honestly, the best thing I was ever asked to do was, in 2024, I was asked to go on the leadership, awards for what's it called? The Breakthrough Prize is what it's called. And it's the Oscars for science. And I was able to and my son and I were able to go to Hollywood on the Oscar stage and be able to thank the laureates, the people that founded the cystic fibrosis, the drug, the modulator from Vertex, we got to go up there and tell our story and present it. And I am literally looking at Elon Musk, Kim Kardashian, you
What
name an A. I literally had to move my feet so Rob Lowe could walk around me. That's how
I
like crazy it was. It
would
was the
die.
most incredible night that I still am like, I swear I'm making it up. Like I still swear I made up that whole story. But the best picture of the night was when Eric had never met Paul Negulescu and Fred Van Gore, the 2
Mhm.
scientists that found it. And Paul was so excited to meet Eric that he took a selfie. And maybe I can turn this because it's on my wall and you have to see it. I don't know, but can you see the top photo?
Oh,
There's
yes.
a
Uh-huh.
gentleman taking a selfie
Yep.
and Eric's behind him and there's Fred behind him. And that's the most important picture of now. Most people might like think Elon Musk and everybody was a great, whatever, but I'm like, that's my
Yeah.
favorite photo. Like,
Yeah,
and again, those are selfies that are keeping it real. You know what I mean?
totally.
So,
Yeah. I remember
yeah. So speaking on that stage was,
that's insane. I don't know
intimidating.
how you did that. I was, freaking out for you, and, Yeah, and this is how important. I mean, I remember the pictures. I say Tony Stark because Iron Man's my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Like, being there, I'm like, "Oh my god, there's no way I could have stood on that stage and done that." Like, there's no way,
There was n
just with
so,
all
my
the
son knows, one more si this is a fun story, is Tony Stark or Robert
Mhm.
Downey Jr. So we're backstage, right? And I go on after, Robert Downey Jr., so we're backstage, he can't leave yet, and so I'm back there, we're back there a little bit. We hear him up on stage, he's doing his thing, and my grandson loves Iron Man, right?
Mhm.
And so Eric's like I say, "You've gotta get a video, you gotta ask him to do a video or a picture together." And Eric knows me well enough to know that if, he doesn't ask him, I will,
Yeah.
like, I have no fear at all,
Yeah.
so, Robert Downey Jr. comes walking back, and Eric taps him on the shoulder, and he jumps around, he goes, "Hey, what's up?" You know? And
Oh
so
my
we have a video of Robert Downey Jr. talking to my grandson and
god.
asking him if he wants to be an Avenger, and then we have pictures because Robert Downey Jr. is now showing Eric how to do the hand, and twist it
Mhm.
just right. And I'm like, what world am I in that
This
this
is
is
another
actually
level.
happening to
Yeah,
me?
that's
And the interesting thing is, so Robert Downey, he doesn't know, obviously. I don't know him. He doesn't know us. He sits down, we do our thing. And just we had the only standing ovations that night, and we had 2. One, when I introduced Eric, because I think the audience thought that it was going to be this sickly boy the way I
yeah,
introduced him, and how comes this man in a
yeah.
tux looking sharp as anything, got a full standing ovation, but the funny thing was right in front of us was Robert Downey Jr., and now he's putting it together like who he was, and
Uh-huh.
he jumped up with both fists like, "That's my boy! That's my
Oh
boy." And
my
if there is a scan where you see him doing that, and I'm like,
so
"Oh
fun.
my god, like,
You're like,
what
"This
world am I
is
in?"
me." And
Yeah, so it was absolutely anyway, that was totally sidebar, but how it goes from being afraid, what you can achieve getting out of your own comfort zone, if you little steps. Now, I couldn't have gone from calling Hewlett Packard to,
right,
the to that stage. It took 18 years.
right.
But again, if you just go out of your comfort zone a little bit at a time, then your whole world changes.
Mhm,
And I think that's, one thing when you are mourning, you just don't want anything to change. Some people don't change the room, they don't change the clothes, they don't change anything. And then you've never evolved to what you could be,
mhm,
And my daughter was on stage in a picture, with us up there. So I just think that eh, I'm trying to live Jenna in the best way possible. I just say yes if it benefits cystic fibrosis in any way. I also now have an affiliation and my heart is pulled to African Mission Healthcare. That's a totally different thing, but my
mhm.
heart is also pulled there as well. I think, when your heart grows, you have bigger capacity to
Yeah.
continue to do more things. And now that I'm an empty nester, I don't have to, I don't have anything. I don't even have a plant. Those flowers are fake. I don't have anything real in my house. So I
Mhm,
can spend my time doing other things. But speaking is something. If it helps, I tell people I really don't want to, but if you think it will help, I'm
mhm.
all in. I'm
Yeah,
all in.
yeah.
Yeah. That
We're
was a long answer. I'm so
No, I
sorry.
love it. That's such a good story, but and it goes to the whole thing that I like to talk about on here is like your growth through your grief.
Yes.
There are plenty of people who get stuck in their grief, like we've talked about. And, that's one of the reasons I started Widows Who Whine, for example, is
Yeah.
everything around was just grief groups, grief groups, grief groups. There was no expectation of moving on in life to thrive again, to be happy again. For
Right.
widows, there's nothing. It's
Yeah.
literally like grief and then hide in the shadows. And that's it. It's
Mm,
insane. And so, that's literally how that happens. So that when you have an expectation of just staying and living in grief, there's no room for growth. But when you say, "Okay, I've been," I don't wanna say it's not well, you can look at it this way, the gift of grief,
yeah.
right? And
Mm,
the gift of grief and what can that bring me? What can that do for me? But
mhm,
also what can it do for the world? And, you've just given us a couple of examples, but anything
yeah.
else you want to add on that? Like, how have you seen your own growth through your grieving process?
Mark said something, "Oh, only something good has to come from this,"
Mm,
early on, and I was like, what is wrong with you? Nothing good is gonna come from like, you like, everybody grieves differently. He always finds the good, like, he
mhm,
lives in rose-colored glasses,
mhm.
and I'm just like, "It sucks, it's terrible, I don't wanna live," It got so bad for grieving. So you did a podcast with your daughter, and it hit me. She goes, she couldn't breathe at one point. She says, "I can't breathe,"
Yes.
and I hadn't thought about that in a long time, but during the worst part of my grieving, I was going through a panic attack and I literally couldn't breathe. I'm like, and it looked like I had almost like choked or something. Like I couldn't. And Mark is like, breathe. And I'm like, and I'm actually like, I don't, I don't know how. And he grabbed my face and he goes, and I was like,
Oh.
and I was like, and then like, so when she said that, I was like,
Mm,
whoa, that's how grief and mourning can change your nervous system, panic attack, breathing,
yeah.
that like something you do involuntarily, all of a sudden, I was like, I don't know how to breathe. I mean, and so I cried. I had to shut your podcast off for a minute because I was like, wow, that really struck
Wow.
a nerve because I
Mhm.
hadn't thought of that. But going back to the gift of grief is that the gift is we're you were born into the world yourself. You were going to leave by yourself. And everything between the dash, they say, is opportunities to experience, an opera, the good, the bad. You're going to cry. You're going to do all these things. Jenna came in to my life when I was 24. I had lived 24 years before there was a Jenna Cassalina. And then when she exited physically my life, I'm like, what am I going to be on the other side of
Yep.
that grief? And I knew I'd become something different, but I kind of liked who I was before. And I was scared to death of who was going to be this Margaret on the other side of this. And Mark kept saying, good things happen. And I'm like, I just can't even look at you right now.
Yeah.
But the good thing is you evolve into look what your grieving did. And your grieving helps others. And I've always told this to people, if you're feeling terrible about yourself, do one thing nice for somebody else. If you do one thing nice because you're in your own head, you're feeling sorry for yourself. And I always give myself a pity party day. I gave my
Mhm.
daughter a pity party day. You're allowed a pity party day, one day.
Yep.
Sometimes it's hours. And
Yeah.
then you're like, do something nice for somebody else. Get
Mm,
out of your own way. And
yeah.
if you help, and I do believe serve others, and I serve the foundation, I serve African Mission Healthcare, I serve my family, I serve my community, I serve in any way that makes it better. And then all of a sudden I feel better, but the ripples. So there's good in ripples.
Mm,
There's just good in that. And it's really it's tough love of saying if you're that depressed, you're just wrapped in yourself and
mhm.
just keep doing nice things for other people until you feel a little bit better is
Yeah. I
that's
love that.
what I've learned.
Yeah, I love that, and I think for, one of the things I've always said, and I know that part of this is just defense mechanisms, right? Is, this is this is my dark, crass humor, but when John died, we I was talking to somebody we had some dissension within the family of how his celebration of life should look. And we ended up not my choice meeting with a rabbi. We're not Jewish and trying to be convinced of what it should look like. And so then the rabbi turned to me and I was just listening and going along with, okay, I'll meet, I'll talk, I'll do whatever, I'll hear you out. And she said, so how are you doing? And first of all, I hate that question, but
Yeah.
second of all,
How are you? Yeah.
it was like when everything was happening in Syria, and it was really bad, it was all in the news. I go, "Well, I'm not being raped every day in a Syrian refugee camp, so pretty good." And that's big. The rabbi was like, "Oh." I'm like, "Are we done? Are we
Yeah.
am I good now? Can I go?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I always think of I mean, that's an extreme case, but I always
Mhm.
think of and I was doing it obviously for a point, but,
Of course.
um,
Yeah.
the things can always be worse, and people survive so much worse,
Mhm.
so much worse. And
Yeah.
it's like every day there's horrific things that happen. And losing your child, horrific. Losing your husband, yes, bad. It you can not even look very far outside of yourself and find something worse, you know?
Mhm.
And it doesn't diminish the pain
Mhm.
that you feel, that I feel, that we all feel with the
Mhm.
loss. But I do find that that helps me get perspective, and I do truly believe that if you look hard enough, you can
Mhm.
find a silver lining
You
in
can.
any situation that comes your way. You know, with
Yeah.
us having 2 kids with CF, you know, I've grown a hell of a lot as a person,
Yeah.
uh, you
You
know,
have
and
to.
yeah, you
Mhm.
do, and you and I think as a parent, as a woman, as a wife, in so many ways, I'm so much better as a human
Mhm.
than I would have been had I not had CF in my life.
Yep.
You know, I
100%. That's
yeah.
a great example of making the better of a
Mhm.
really shitty diagnosis.
Mhm. Yeah, it
Mm.
sucks. Um, you know, and we're still waiting on that cure,
Sure.
and we'll get it, we'll get it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I just think that, you can get lost in it, or you can say, "Wait a second. Okay,
Yeah.
let's let's figure out how to do something good."
Something good.
Mhm.
After Jenna moved up, one of her friends told me that in second grade, she said her purpose in life was to bring people to church. Now,
Mhm.
I'm like, really? Like, that's a
Yeah.
great way to make friends.
Yeah.
Like really? In second grade? But when she moved up and we had a very small little church in town, it only seats I don't know how many it was, but peppermint patties, which is another story, were
Mhm.
handed out to everybody there, and they ran out at 1,200. So I know that we had at least 1,200, and it didn't fit. People standing room only. And as sad as I was, I mean, talk about sad. Talk
Yeah.
about mourning, talk about grieving, talk about just not even wanting to live. I mean, I honestly didn't want to live. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, grief is grief, right? I didn't want to breathe. I hated that I was alive, but I'm sitting this in the church and I start feeling the most amount of love I ever had because I had atheists in my church, Jewish people in my church, Hindu people in my church, Catholic people, and people that never go all the time. Like I had everybody, and I was like, "Oh my God, she got the wish. She brought
She
all her
did it.
people to church."
Oh my
And I
god.
was like, and there was a line. This is December, like December 9th, I think it was, and outside was packed too. I mean,
And
it was cold, and there were people just. That's what this 13-year-old girl did.
yeah. Oh
It
my
it was absolutely like, it wasn't me. I mean,
mhm.
I didn't, so it's again, finding the silver lining in something so, like, that if I could just live some of what she taught me,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't know where she got it from, and that's probably the most annoying trait that she has, is that she's still teaching me, and
Mhm.
if my son talked to you, he would have rattle off everything that was annoying,
Yeah.
and we talk about, the realness of Jenna, and
Mhm.
she was real annoying, real dramatic, real stubborn,
Yep.
really stubborn,
Real
but
little sister who, yeah, bugged her
yeah,
brother. Yeah. I mean, that's
yeah,
her job too, to be fair.
yeah,
That was her job.
yeah.
Um, well, I know we've been on here for a little bit of time, but I wanna, tell us a little bit about, I wanna talk to you because, you said you've written your whole life and you
Yeah.
wrote that book out of your journals, but you've gone on to write, I don't ho what are you on now, 5?
I'm writing 5. I've published 4. Yeah,
Published 4, okay, yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, share a little bit about that because we'll put all the links for those in there too.
All
Um
right. Well, I'm going to slide this out because I don't know, because I always keep them over here, so you can see. Well, you can see Jenna at the top.
oh, yeah,
And I don't know if these books are backwards or forward on yours, but
oh, it
the
looks
top,
forward to
well,
me, but yeah.
you can read them.
Yep.
All right, so the first one is Beyond Breathing. That's my
Mhm,
memoir of my life as being a mom of 2
mhm,
kids born with cystic fibrosis, and how I managed dealing with
mhm,
grief of losing her. Then you go to the bottom one, which is called Embracing the Beauty in the Broken, which I believe that most people, as we age, we try to hide all the things that are wrong with us.
mhm.
And I wrote that during menopause, so it
Mhm.
was like Mark always says, if you can't find the book you want, write it. So I wrote that because it's like, let's embrace and lean into aging and all all the chaos that you survived, it should be called the scar book, like anything that tried to kill me made me stronger, you know? And it's all the crises that I've gone through in my life. And then it's like a resource where you can go for extra help for mental health, or if I got drugs, all
Yeah.
these things. So
Right.
that's in that book there. And then the other two are my idea of fiction writing. Like
Mm.
I live in a world with, I could be on a desert island and be happy all by myself because I have all these imaginary people in
Mhm.
my head. So See You at Sunset was my first attempt back in 2017 to write about, and of course, Jena and cystic fibrosis is in all of my books. I can't not write about her and cystic fibrosis. Um, but it comes in a story sort of way. So See You at Sunset was my interpretation that I always say, if hospital walls could talk, what would they say? And
Mhm.
if love really could last eternity, how would you know? Meet a 13-year-old girl that will show you the way. And then there's a spirit who still remains in the hospital, and he's kind of the narrator. So, and he has since passed, but you don't really know that. Well, you do in the beginning, and you kind of go through it. And then my last one is called Never Be Afraid to Fly. Which is a real deal grown up novel now. It's a real book, and it's about, um, I'm all about being in midlife now, believing that I love to read, and everything I read is for young kids. And young kids, I mean 20 and 30, and all this love and the ooey gooey
That's
stuff. And
true.
I'm like, I can't relate because it grosses me out because the guys are the same age as my son and
Yeah.
all his friends. And I'm like, and anybody my age is like the grandma of the bunch. Even though I'm a grandma, I don't feel like I look like I have blue hair in a rocking chair. So I'm like, hey, I'm all about women reinvention
Mhm.
um, fiction. And I'd write about second chances and love and adventure and no expiration date on any of that. And you can be just as vibrant. So Helen is a flight attendant that was married to the same man twice, and she's going through midlife, having an affair with a married man, and havoc wreaks, and it's like a suspenseful romance with
Yeah.
a happy ending at the end.
Oh my god, I love
So,
it. I love
and
it.
I'm writing now a country boy and a female girl romance. So
Oh my
it
god.
keeps me, again,
God.
crazy keeps me sane.
I
So
love it. I love
yeah,
it. I love this, like, pouring out of you too. It's just awesome.
yeah. Well, now I have the time if I'm not with my grandkids
Yeah.
and family and traveling and CF.
Yeah. All the things,
Yeah.
all the things. Well, tell us a little bit too about Africa, and I'll be sure to put link.
That's just our through my husband's first cousin, who is the president currently at African Mission Healthcare. We have been involved and supporting it financially, and then we've gone to Kenya and Uganda. I'd like to go to Malawi next, and my heart has been broken open by being there for weeks at a time. And most people are like, "Oh, did you go on safari? Did you see the gorillas?" I'm like, yes, I did, but I wish I didn't because I don't wanna talk about that. I mean, it was cool, yes, but can I talk about the other 10, 12 days I spent with the most amazing people where I left Uganda? I have a new best friend, and her name is Doctor Sister Priscilla, and she's a Ugandan, gynecologist, urologist, and we literally text each other 2 to 3 times a week since I've left. I mean,
Amazing.
you just bond with certain people, and she keeps me grounded because my grandson does a high and a low. So at the dinner table, you say your high point of the day, your low point of the day. So we were at a dinner in Uganda, and I said, "Oh, let's do what my grandson does." We went around the table. Sister Priscilla and I, we do the same thing. We talk about our highs and lows. Now, I'm in America, which I am very privileged. I
Mm.
am of that privileged American, and my highs and lows are different than hers. Her highs and lows are literally death and destruction. And her highs are that she found grace in the death and destruction that she sees,
Wow.
especially that happens with the women. And it's
I
just,
know.
so she keeps me grounded, and we just bonded. And she likes seeing pictures of the snow and
Mhm.
my grandkids. And she's just, I absolutely, my heart is so connected to her.
Mm.
But African Mission Healthcare, if anybody even cares, go to the website, take a look at it. It's just well worth at least 2 seconds to pull it up and look at it. That's it.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree. When you, obviously you do such a great job of journaling your adventures, all of them on Facebook, which I
yeah,
love. And it's, following along with that adventure was eye opening, honestly.
yeah. And in honor of that, every 11th of every month, because African Mission Healthcare is involved in 11 countries of the 53 countries in the continent of Africa. And so the 11th of every month, I highlight something wonderful that, I can share to
Mhm.
other people about that. So I promise for 1 year. So for 1 year, every 11th of every month, I'm going to write something to highlight what people can do. It's amazing. But
I'll definitely
well,
include
thank you for letting me
that.
talk about that because I
Yeah.
have the capacity to give more, and it's sometimes writing a check is easy,
Mhm.
but seeing it with your heart is,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's very hard.
It is hard. It's
Yeah,
really,
as you know, with Honduras,
yeah, it's like getting out of your own little bubble and
yeah,
seeing
help
again,
someone else.
go back to, life can be pretty freaking hard for people
Yes, it can.
out again, not to diminish our own grief and our own
No,
journey, but holy shit, some of the things are unimaginable
yeah,
that
I say if
people
you have the ability, you have the obligation, and that's something. And then I also believe, if not you, then who? So those are the two things that I just try to live by is all, and then, you know,
yeah.
not be annoying to people.
Not be annoying.
That's my 3rd.
Yeah,
Don't hate me.
that's right, that's
Yeah.
right. Well, this has been awesome.
Oh,
I could talk to you forever, as you know, because we did that
we
anyway.
have.
Yep, we have, but
Usually at a bar, but,
yeah, usually at a bar late night after everything, and they just close
those
us,
are the best.
just shut
Yeah.
us out and say, "Go home now."
Yes. That's
Um,
okay.
that's okay, that's okay. Anything else that we didn't cover that
I
you
think you covered everything, and I just want I think I love what you're doing, and the people that are watching, and if you got to this point, your heart has to be hurting, for you to get this far, and it's okay for it to hurt, and it's okay. It's just, again, pain is not a reason for stopping, and I hope that people, if they do hurt, know that it's okay. I mean, I didn't get like this overnight. I spent 2 months in bed, like
yeah,
uh, you know, and there are times I still rock in the corner crying hysterically.
yeah,
You
which
mentioned
is
that thing. I
also
think your
okay.
last
Mhm,
the podcast I listened to was, it's the waves, it's the waves hitting
mhm,
the ocean. And it's so true. It comes out of the blue. In the beginning, the waves are just going to kill you. But later on, you're like, okay, here comes another wave. I can handle this. And it's okay. And
yeah,
life is beautiful. So
yeah.
thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Thank
Really.
you for coming on, and I love hearing about Jenna every chance we get, and, I've been so looking forward to this one. I'm like,
Me too.
"Gotta get through these other episodes so we can get to those."
13, lucky 13.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
so, thank you so much, and, yeah, if I'll put all that stuff in the show notes, and, yeah,
it's
just
okay.
everybody just remember that this is all part of the deal. Grief, loss, it's all part of life, but it doesn't have to kill you in the process. And, there's so many ways out there to still appreciate life, look at life as the gift that it is, and keep living. Just keep living and find a way back to joy and find some growth in it, Everything's a lesson and you can learn from it or not. You can not. But
Mhm.
there's growth to happen in all the things that we are handed. And thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you so much, Margaret, for being the guest today. I love you so much.
Right
And
back at you. Love
yeah,
you.
I love
Until we
you.
see each other in person again.
That's
IRL, as the kids say, right? In
yeah,
real
that's
life.
right. And we're live. All right. Well, thank you all so
Bye.
much. Till next time.